Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Hard Truth. Thank you so much for watching. You guys look like superstars out there. I want to give a shout out to New Zealand, Scotland, Australia, the United Kingdom, South Africa, and Canada. You guys rocked this week. Thank you so much for coming out. We had a great time in the live, and now I want to talk about the fact that so many suspicious things happened around 3 o'clock a.m. on the night of the Idaho 4 murders. Okay, we need to talk about this because the timeline seems to be a bit problematic. So I want to see what you guys think about this. You know, it's time to grab that coffee or a nice cup of tea as we begin our story.
Was a scream caught on police body cam video the night the 4 University of Idaho students were murdered. Hear anything? Is it a scream? Is it a screech of tires or something else? The timestamp on the body cam video reads 3:12 a.m., around the time of the murders. On court TV, these former prosecutors listened to the body cam video. Only anchor Vinnie Politan could hear a scream.
If there was a scream coming from the 1122 King Road crime scene at 3:12 in the morning, that would mean that the timeline in the PCA is null and void. Dylan's statement would be completely false because the 4 to 425 timeline would be completely canceled. If there was a scream heard coming from 1122 King Road, that means that Bryan Kohlberger had exactly 19 minutes to leave Pullman, arrive in Moscow, park his car and engage with the first victim. If there were screams heard from 1122 King Road at 3:12 a.m., that means that Bryan Kohlberger had exactly 19 minutes to arrive in Pullman and begin the crime. And if his car was, his phone placed him in Blaine at 4:48, that means that he spent at least an hour in Moscow before he started his drive around the south of Idaho. So if Bryan Kohlberger remained in the house in Moscow for an hour, where were Dylan and Bethany if he was still in the house all of that time? All right, because if he made it to Blaine 4:48, he had over an hour to spend in Moscow. Where was he? Did he change his clothes? Was he still in the house, committing the crimes for an hour? What happened? That it happened at that time, and that the young people around the campus and that lived in that neighborhood, they knew it was going to happen. The problem with all of this is that according to their own records in the PCA, the prosecution is saying Bryan Kohlberger was still in Pullman at 2:53, insinuating that he was on his way to Moscow. But they placed him on camera in Pullman, which is where he was supposed to be at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so that's a problem because Bryan would still be on his way when all of this is happening. Okay, at 2:52, hey, hang up the phone. Okay, at 3 o'clock, God only knows what was going on. By the time 3:12 got there and we heard that scream, we don't know if it was the first scream, the last scream, the during scream. We don't know. All right, but what we do know is Bryan Kohberger would have still been on his way. Even suspect vehicle 1, if it was the drug dealer. They said he didn't start back entering the neighborhood until 3:29. Okay, so everything's already happened by then. Now, my prediction is that all of this proves that Bryan Kohberger not only was not the murderer, he wasn't even in the area. Okay? Now, only thing left for us to talk about with Bryan Kohberger is whether or not he knew about what happened.
Police blotters and call logs are public record. Anybody can see them, and rightly so, because taxpayers pay for that work product. And now some eagle-eyed followers of the Idaho quadruple murder case have picked up on one particular item from the police on the night that the 4 college kids were murdered. In fact, the incident in question happened at almost exactly the same time as the killings. I'm going to read to you what the police blotter actually says. Quote, there was an alcohol offense reported at 3:01 a.m. on November 13th, and that's the last night the kids were alive. The location, a field on Taylor Avenue. You can see it there. Band. It's called Band Field. So that is not far from the Sigma Chi frat house where 2 of the victims, Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, spent a lot of their evening earlier on that night. The police timeline puts them at the Sigma Chi party from 8 to 9 p.m. But then there's a big 4-hour and 45-minute black hole where nobody knows, or nobody's saying anyway, where Ethan and Xana were.
So what do we have? So far we have kids calling the police at around 3 in the morning. We have kids all over the field, the band field, and the apartments that surround the crime scene. We have 4 students or at least residents running away from the house at 3:12, and one of them is carrying a white box. And then we have Bryan Kohberger, who is supposedly headed towards Moscow starting at 2:53 a.m. So it's all a big mess. The timelines don't match. There's no way to integrate the 4 to 4:25 with anything that happened that close to 3 o'clock. It's an either-or situation. They are mutually exclusive. One cannot happen with the other. Either it was 4 to 4:25 or it was 2:52 to 3:15 or 3:20, one or the other. And I personally believe that it was the latter. Okay, so what do you think? Do you think you heard a scream on the video, on the audio? And if so, what does that mean to you as far as applying it to the other facts of the case? Let me know. Let me know. Thank you for watching.